Welcome back, Clashers. Ryotin CCG here. And as you can see on the screen, and you probably saw that thumbnail and clicked on this video, I am doing a Flare deck profile. Now, this is Flare from Set 3 Unrivaled. So again, this game, the box, wow, I can't think of my words. But the set releases May 31st. And at the time of the video go up, we should be 2 weeks away. So I wanted to go ahead and I put together a deck that surprisingly has been working very, very well. If you would like to see this deck in action, trust me, you're going to want to see the build that comes tomorrow, because this one will go head to head. It's going to be awesome. But further ado, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. If it's your first time here, welcome to the video. We have fun here in the Alpha Clash community, and we love that you're here joining us. So again, if you like this, hit that like button. You made it to the end of the video, hit that subscribe button. It does nothing but help out the channel and allows me to keep bringing you content like this. So let's go ahead and talk about some Flare. Let's talk about some Nova tokens. Let's talk about some burn damage. So Flare is a 30-cost contender, and then whenever one or more Clash cards you don't control is defeated by non-Clash damage, you create a Nova Relic token, and then you deal 1 damage to your opponent's contender. And then at 15 skill, once per turn in your primary phase, you may send 1 Nova token to Oblivion and then give a target card flight. It is awesome because, again, if you're late game, you can start blowing stuff up with flight. In the deck, we are running, it has some weird ratios, but I'm liking it so far as it's being a first build. We're running 3 copies of Flare. Flare is from set 1. It does allow us to engage it and deal damage to a Clash card and or a contender. Just do some damage, clean up some cards, or even things that are low cost, like maybe a Moxie. It can kind of get it out of there very quickly, which then procs the Flare skill. Next up, we have 3 copies of the new Flare, which is Flare Nova Radiator. It is a 1-cost, 1/1. And then once per turn during your primary phase, you may pay 2 red to create a Nova token and then draw a card as well. I feel this is very, very good to just pay 2 and draw a card and create Nova tokens. So you can kind of sit on this in your first opening turns. You know, you play it first, next turn, pay 2, draw an extra card. You know, just kind of get your hand up. So that's why I'm playing at 3, because you only really will play it in the opening turn. So and then I feel once it gets farther along, you may use a card, you may not use the card. You probably do some combo pieces, but I feel 3 right now for the build is very, very good. The next up, we do have some more 1-cost. We have Tried and True, Torque the Uncontrollable. We're running it at 4, still one of the best cards in the game. When it's 1/2, and when it takes non-Clash damage, you basically give it +1/+1, and if it takes 5 or more, it gets a breakthrough, which doesn't really come up that often because when you're doing it, you're pretty much clearing the board. But again, this card works very, very well with the new Clash buff, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Next up, one of the key cards for this deck is Flare Stoking Flames. We're running this at 4 copies. It is a 2-cost, 1/2, and then trigger enter. You create 2 Nova tokens, and then you may deal 1 damage to your contender. So again, you want to put this inside of a Torque deck. It does proc the Torque skill, but in the Flare one, we're not going to really deal ourselves damage, but we're doing it just so we can accelerate our Nova tokens, so we can break up to our combo pieces. So again, this one is 4. Next up, a really good card that works extremely well for this deck, especially with a lot of 1/2s now. We have War the Provocateur. So it is a 2-cost, 1/2. And then when it is dealt damage, you can either deal 1 damage back to a Clash card, and or you can activate the portal. This works really well because if your opponent attacks with a 1/2, or you have a lot more Lens coming around now, you can actually obstruct or attack into a Lens card or a Haven card, and then deal it that excessive damage. So give them just somebody playing Lens, and they're trying to get a bounty counter on it. If you block with it will actually kill the land, which will then stop its effect from going off. So I do feel Provocateur is a really good card. Right now I'm playing it at 3, because again, it is matchup kind of focused. Again, it's mainly for the early game to kind of deal things, damage, and get them out here. So again, we run it at 3, but that's because we also run Torque the Ranged Assailant. At 4 copies, it is a 3-cost 2/2, which also works very, very well with a Provocateur because it has Enrage 2, so when it takes non-clash damage, it'll get +2 to its attack. So again, you can attack with Provocateur into a Contender, deal a damage to this Torque. Now it's a 4/1, swing in, deal some big damage. Yes, it will pretty much be sent to oblivion on the crackback. But again, swinging with a 4 for 3 is very, very good. And that's why I like it at 4 and like the Predator at 3. Because again, this card will come up for just to deal some nice ending damage. Then we have 4 copies of Flare Inferno Arrival. It is a 3-cost 2/2 with Flight. And at a trigger enter, you deal 2 damage to a Clash card. And that Clash card is defeated, you send a Nova token to Oblivion and then deal 2 damage to opponent Contender. So again, it's pretty much free because if you do destroy something, you will proc the Flare skill and then you'll get 1 back. So essentially you'll deal 3 damage of non-clash to your opponent for just 3. And then you have an early flyer against like those Plasmax or even late flyer against things like Lin or Flares. You're running 3 copies of Flare Scattering Blast. It is a 5/3, and then trigger defeat. Once defeated, you deal X amount of damage to an opponent's Clash card. X is the amount of cards, Clash cards you control. So again, it is a really nice way to clean up the board because again, if your opponent swings in with a Lin, you can kind of kill it. And then if you have enough cards out, you can destroy something else. Again, it's a very good cleanup card, or if you just want to hit your opponent very, very hard, very quickly, the 5/3 works out well. Then we have 1 copy of our Legendary because we cannot play more than 1. But this card is amazing. This is Flare Flamebound Seeker. It is Flight Unrivaled, 0/3 stats, but then every time you play a red card, you can re-stand it. So what it does is, not even once per turn, you can engage this card, deal a damage to a Contender and or Clash card. If you play a red card, you can re-stand it, which means you can do it again. And then also, if you deal 5 damage with this card, you can play a Flare from your deck for free. So you can grab any card with Flare, and this deck, we have plenty of targets to get out. But the main one we're going to try to get out is the 3 copies of the Flare 6 cost that we do have. So it's a 6/6/6, and it has Flight, and when it attacks, it deals 2 damage to everything on the board. I mean, all the Clash cards on board. So these cards work very, very well. And that's why we have a little higher of low-cost cards, so we can keep proccing this skill off as well. It works very well to kind of clear the board out and deal some extra damage. Next up, we have 3 copies of Favorable Outcome. Favorable Outcome, again, is for the early game. Get rid of those Havens very quickly. And then also proc our Flare skill to get those Nova tokens going. It is deals 2 damage to a Clash card, and if it's defeated, you create a War Minion token. And then tech card that we are running for the deck is Casualty of War. So this one allows you to send a target Clash card to Oblivion. If you do, you draw 2 cards and then activate the portal. So again, this works very well to favor outcome. So you can deal 2 damage, something to get it off, get that in here. Casualty of War, away the token, draw 2, and then activate the portal. Only running at 2 copies because as you get later in the game, you don't really want to see this much. But I do believe you mulligan your first hand to get the Casualty of War out, get some extra cards, combining it with the other Flare to draw cards, 3 cards essentially that you can get in your turn and just kind of keep that hand presence going because your Contender does not draw cards. Then we're running 2 copies of Kinetic Blast, and it has 3 costs, deal 5 damage to a target Clash card you don't control. This is my version of Oblivion, for this deck, because again, I can take out a Flare, I can take out a Kagan, I can take out a Lin. So those heavy hitters that have 5, it can deal it. And also with Suit Up being around, if your opponent has a Moxie Specialist, it's only a 7/5. So Kinetic Blast actually gets it out of there very quickly. So that way it's just not sitting on the board for a long period of time. And then combining with Kinetic Blast, of course, we run 2 copies of Here Comes the Boom. Here Comes the Boom deals 5 damage to all Clash cards. This is my Hail Mary card because this deck does get a lot of Clash cards out, so you don't want to really nuke your board. But again, you're kind of behind. Your opponent is getting a lot of stuff. You can Here Comes the Boom, clear the board. You have Torque out. Of course, you can go in for a game that way. So that's why I only run at 2, because again, it's my Hail Mary card. I really don't want to see it until I really want to see it. And we only are running 3 Clash Grounds, which is Scorched Earth. Scorched Earth allows all of our non-clash damage to get +1 to it. So again, when you have it out and you're doing things with the flare, it now makes it where when you tap it, it deals 2 damage. So you only have to do this about 3 times, and then you automatically get the flare skill. Because again, you can play it, deal a damage, play a red card, restand it, 3, one more time, 5, and you pretty much got 5 damage out, and then you proc to get the flare out. So again, we're running only 3 Clash Grounds. So again, if any powerful Clash Grounds are out, this will kind of stop it. But a reason also why we only run 3 is because we do run 2 copies of Supernova. Now, Supernova is a 7 cost, and you have to send 7 Nova tokens to Oblivion and draw 2. You have 2 flare cards out. It makes it a 6 cost. And then as you draw your 2 cards, you can deal 7 damage to your opponent's contender, which is the main one you want to do. And then also, you can lock out Clash Grounds. By sending all Clash Grounds that are currently out, you send them to Oblivion, and then both players can't play any more Clash Grounds. Or you can send all accessories, or send all Clash cards on the field to Oblivion. So depending on your matchup, this card's really good. I feel like against discarded cards, you want to stop the Clash Grounds from being played because they have very powerful Clash Grounds. So you can block those out. Accessories, again, you're playing against Moxie. You can get rid of all their fully powered armors, and now they're all into Oblivion. And even works very well against Haven's backpack because it does not target it, so it will actually send backpack to Oblivion and make it where their entire strategy is no longer valid. And they have to find a new way to beat you. But by this time, you're pretty much winning. And this deck does accelerate Nova tokens very, very well. So your only task is to have this card in hand, which you do by drawing so much, and as well as your 7 Nova tokens out. Last but not least, we run 4 copies of our Clash buff, which is Heat of Battle. What this does, it deals 2 damage to one of your Clash cards, and then deals 4 damage to another Clash card. Reason why I say this card is very, very good, because it works extremely well with Torque, who does not take damage from non-Clash. So again, you can obstruct with Torque, Clash buff, hit it for 2. Now it's a 3/4 blocker, and then you can go ahead and deal 4 damage to another card, which a lot of times it will proc the flare skill. So again, you keep your Torque out, it's not defeated, and then you can potentially blow up 2 things on your opponent's field. So I feel 1 dealing 2 to trade for 2. It's very, very extremely powerful. But that is the deck of Flare. Let me know if you're playing Flare going into Clash Grounds in Columbus, or do you have another deck, or do you feel this deck could need some improvement? It is mono red as of right now. I did try it out doing blue. I did try it out with white. I did try it out with black. But after I realized that just by sitting on Nova Radiator for a couple of turns, drawing cards, getting my tokens out, and then just kind of building up from there, is probably the best way to play. I said a deck works very slow in the beginning. And then, but once you get to that 4th turn, you're instantly just dropping cards down and attacking, dealing damage. And that's how you kind of want to play this deck to win. So again, all comments are welcome. Be nice. Until next time, this has been Ryan.
I step into the ring, ready for the fight. With a hunger in my eyes, I'm taking flight. I walk with confidence, I wear the crown. Ain't no one gonna knock me down.